Okay, so we're going to be talking about defenses today.
I don't know what you mean, Anna.
Um,
What do you mean? What do you mean by defences?
what are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
We are going to be talking about defenses in FASD. A huge topic, something that's not often really talked about or acknowledged that much in relation to FASD, but clearly a really big factor. The degree to which people with FASD, their nervous systems are really affected so that they find it really difficult to process and regulate emotion. Feelings can be really threatening, and the need to defend against feelings and thoughts is sky high often. It can be like a Fort Knox of defense. The reason we're talking about this, I'm somebody that needs to know why. Why are we talking about this? The reason is because understanding it in both FASD and then for caregivers and practitioners as well just can make such a massive difference. In my personal experience, it has. Going through working with psychotherapists for my son and for me and my partner has just made a massive difference to understand defenses in my son and in us, and then to be able to therefore ease them. It's huge for
Yeah,
me.
I think just
It's been big.
noticing they're there is where I'm at, because I'm coming at it from like different professional perspectives that we've got and training and all of that. So my knowledge in this area, just I didn't have any real understanding of this till I started working with you, Anna. So I think I'm still learning, and it's really at the stage of I'm more noticing it for myself than for my child who has FASD. But it's already useful to notice and to be aware that, oh right, that's where that's coming from, that response. So yes, I think it's definitely raised my awareness of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Fight, flight, freeze is obviously really useful to understand as well. Most people have some understanding of that probably. And in FASD, yeah, they can be really dysregulated, really extreme. So for example, my son, less so recently because he started on meds that reduce emotional arousal. So emotional arousal is a big factor in dysregulated fight, flight, freeze. Clearly, he's now much less fighty than he was. It's really lowered aggression, which is a big issue for him. The fighty, aggressive behaviors that are completely about defending himself. We've evolved to be able to protect ourselves with fight, flight, freeze against predators originally, and in order to secure, survival level bodily defenses, essentially, that we're talking about. And in FASD, a big thing is because the whole threat system is affected in the brain and nervous system, massive sensitivity to threat. Fight, flight, freeze can have a real knock on to us as caregivers and practitioners as well, meaning that we then go into those more easily and more extremely.
Mm.
So for me, I don't think I realized how much I can be prone to fight until this experience of having a child with FASD.
Mm.
When I think back, I've always had that ability to be a bit fighty.
You sound
But
like quite a stroppy teenager, I know, it has
but
to be said.
oh
Yeah.
my God, I was. I've said that, haven't I? I really was quite extreme, actually. Yeah, I was really like, well,
Yeah.
maybe not extreme, but I was like a bit of a fighter in terms of how I was with my parents, really shouty, really sweary, really like
Whereas I was
um
perfect, so I have no understanding of that.
yeah, what were you? I don't even know what you were like as a teenager.
Yeah, no, I
Were you
think
a
I was
fighter?
quite compliant, really. No, I think I was. I think because people talk about fawn, don't they, now as well? And especially
Mm.
with kind of more gendered female presentations, of these ways of responding to threat. So
Yeah.
yeah, it can definitely be more that girls would do the kind of compliance as a means of survival. And we know that women for centuries have worked on a kind of social communication level to be able to negotiate survival in very difficult circumstances where means of fight have not been available to us perhaps so much. So yeah, so I think I was more of a fawner. Yeah, as I've aged though, I think more towards the fighting. Yeah.
Oh, really? But that
Yeah.
wasn't such a thing when you were younger.
No. And I think again, it's like what we say about caregivers being under that kind of ongoing stress and feeling under threat ourselves. Because I think for me, one of my fundamental kind of fears and senses of threat is that I can't look after my family. I can't make sure they're all safe. I can't make sure, when their needs aren't being met, systems are failing us, we're being let down, the kids aren't getting what they need. And also just that kind of sensory overwhelm of living with somebody with extra needs or several children with extra needs, especially FASD. We've got lots of noise going on. There's quite a lot of chaos. I'd love it to be more orderly, but it's not. And just my brain's in an overwhelmed state, let alone the sleep deprivation and all the kind of Maslow's lower hierarchy needs that aren't being met. So I think that kind of sense of all of those things coming up against my little fortress of my family and the people I love and trying to keep us all safe and well means that I have turned into probably more of a person who's okay with conflict and might go into it more than necessary sometimes, probably. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I
Do you
think so.
think do you think it's sort of tapped into that or like I don't know, was that always there or is it tapped into it more? Is it like
My
brought it
parents would
out?
probably say it was always there, always there. But yeah, I just think it's like it is like I used to own chickens, and they're really quite stupid. Sorry if you're a chicken lover out there. I couldn't cope with chickens because they're just, well, first of all, who wants to muck that out? But what chickens know is they can't run. They can't really run very fast. They know that they're not the best flyers. So flight and running away is not available to them. They know that they're not great at fighting a fox that's coming their way. So if they perceive danger, they will freeze. So I think we go to the mechanism that is left available to us, don't we? We go to the
Mm.
mechanism that is possible. And that's why perhaps maybe younger children might feel that freeze or flight is more available to them, whereas as they get bigger and they think, oh, I can fight now, this is actually
Mm.
impactful, maybe that one's more available. So I
Mm.
think for myself, it's just the one that seems to be most kind of available to me now. I don't think you have much choice in these things, do you? Because it's that feeling of being cornered, I think, for in
It can
threat.
be also, I think, when you're brought up against yourself. So I have a
Mm,
big thing about how extreme situations in life, and this being one of them, having a kid with FASD, it's so extreme, it's so challenging, it's so emotionally dysregulating that it
mm,
literally brings you up against yourself and potentially cracks you open.
mm,
And I actually see that as potentially quite a positive thing.
mm,
Um, so if you're not just defending against it, if you're allowing it in and there's this experience of suffering essentially to kind of crack you open, then yeah, it can be so painful that it can really bring you up against those really, really difficult feelings
mm.
that then makes defenses so much more dysregulated and extreme. So it might be like you wouldn't naturally be a fighter, but it brings you up against that. So, and
Mm,
underneath that for me is that real helpless, out of control feeling. Because we're
yeah.
talking about survival here, and when you were talking about your family and how you feel about services and stuff,
Mm,
there was that sense of feeling hopeless and helpless and out of control.
mm.
And that for me is how people with FASD feel most of the time
Yeah.
because of loads of factors that we won't go into here, but like there's loads of nervous system and brain factors that mean that they feel really out of control of
Yeah.
their own survival and
Mm,
helpless and powerless. And
mm,
that's what can really push us into that. For me, when I've really gone into fight, flight, freeze, or particularly fight as well, it's when I felt utterly just really, really distressing feeling, bodily feeling of kind of helplessness, powerlessness, and totally out of control. And I would like really scream and sort of throw things and, those kind of impulses towards fight that I wouldn't have thought that I would be so much like, but I think press to that point because I
Yeah.
think we major in one of them as well. So it's like we major in fight, flight, or freeze.
Mm,
And I would normally, I think, major in flight at
mm,
slash fawn because flight and fawn are quite similar, aren't they? So fawn, similar to you, like people pleasing,
mm,
really sort of wanting to make everything okay and feeling like, I'm never enough and that whole sort of
mm,
uh, fawning and flying away from the feelings,
mm.
avoiding the feelings in that kind of
Yeah,
way.
we have these discussions, don't we, in the workshops we were running for caregivers. And we've just
Mm.
finished working with a cohort now, the third cohort this year for a regional adoption agency. And one of the things that I think can be really most challenging for us as caregivers, while we're training and personally, can be that kind of pushing away of difficult feelings. So that's a defense, isn't it, in and of itself? So, yeah.
Yeah, I think basically when it comes down to it, defenses are essentially about trying to get away from the difficult feelings.
Mm,
If you boil it down, that's basically at its root. Um, on a survival level, we've developed these mechanisms for trying to survive, and a big sort of threat to our survival feels like these feelings of being out of control and helpless and out of control of our survival.
mm.
That feeling is so excruciating that we
Yeah.
just do anything to escape it.
Yeah,
We'll just do
yeah.
and we'll find we just can't bear the feeling in our bodies.
So in terms of the kids then, sorry, just going back to the kids, because we were talking earlier and we were struggling to come up with examples for my daughter because she's younger than your son and she's got the dysmaturity with FASD anyway, but also quite significantly cognitively impaired, learning disabled, whatever you want to call it at this stage and age. But in terms of her, what I will say is there's definitely that clear kind of feeling and sense that it is unbearable. Like this
Yeah.
state is so unbearable. So, for example, one of the things, especially at the moment, that she's going through is that me not being in this house, like me walking out of this house, is unbearable to her.
Mm.
And so she will cope with that by taking her iPad, going upstairs, sitting in her bed, and having the door closed. So she doesn't have to deal with the environment without me in it. She'll go and put herself in another place and space.
Oh, so it's like a bit of a flight and potentially a
Mm,
bit of a freeze element. Sounds
yeah.
quite handy to me, Beck.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
So what I'll do,
sounds
what
better
I'll do,
than
so I
alternatives.
will sometimes say because if we kind of don't can't allow for that or that I'm still in the house but not in that room, for example, what she'll do is stay in the main room downstairs and lose herself completely. My husband will be looking after her and really struggling. That's really hard to cope with. She's having a massive meltdown, and really hard. So it's better for me to say I've left the house because then the behavior is I'll go up to my room. So like now, if she was up, I wouldn't say I'm in the bedroom doing the work, and hiding away and on a call with Anna. I would say, Mummy's got to go out, or like Mummy's going to the gym. Mummy, be back soon. Be back soon. Okay, iPad in bed, and off she'll trot. So it's easier for her to deal with that. So there's definitely those kind of behaviors going on, and we know that FASD is such a spectrum. We know that everyone out there has probably got very different children with very different kinds of ways of communicating this or ways of showing that they're feeling these things and responding with these kind of defenses. But yeah, that's one I can kind of think of in terms of this feeling is so uncomfortable to me that I literally have to hide from it or escape from it. Yeah.
And that sounds like it could be a combination of the unbearable uncertainty and ambiguity of whether you're there or not. And then,
Yeah.
and underneath that is that survival level fear of abandonment, and under that annihilation, that because your primary caregiver
Mm.
is going to vanish,
Mm.
and you're going to be abandoned
And
and
like we
not
say with
survive.
FASD, sorry, and I'm just thinking, but like we say with FASD, is that onion, isn't it? And everything's got layers and multifaceted causes and reasons and ways of different perspectives, but also the lack of object permanence. So we've still got a
Yeah.
child who is 7 who has absolutely no idea that I haven't just dropped off the face of the earth when
And the
I'm not
terror
there.
of that, like
Yeah,
if you really go into that, it's hard to imagine, isn't it? Really
yeah,
feeling that, not being able to predict that person will come back, that you're
yeah,
the person that you depend on for your survival
yeah.
might just vanish, and
And
you can't
also the
predict that.
person, you're not necessarily at even the stage of seeing that person as a separate human being, the person to whom
Yeah.
you still feel melded, as a very young
Yes.
child does to their
Yeah. Yeah.
caregiver.
Yeah.
So all of those
And
different contributory factors are escalating the threat every time, aren't they? They're kind of
yeah.
adding and adding to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What else does it look like for us? So I've talked a bit about the sort of fighty stuff of like, and that lessened the more I became aware, actually, and found skills, because also it was getting to that point where I was like, this isn't okay, that I feel really
Mm.
out of control, getting angry and ragey, and it was horrible. So I
For
guess,
yourself, Anna, or for with your child, or both.
well, both, I felt like, it's not good for him to see me like this.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
felt really like rageful towards him, and luckily
Yeah.
it didn't, escalate too much. But it was just that I was like, I've got to find ways um to manage this more,
Yeah.
and I guess get the anger out as well, get the fight impulse out in different ways to try and
Mm-hmm.
do that. So I'm really interested in that, like, how do we get our anger out? Because it's
Mm,
not good for the fight impulse
mm,
to just be turned inwards, is it? And then
mm.
that can lead to depression, and it can lead to real loads of shame and self-blame, and
Yeah,
it's
I think anger's a really interesting one. And just going back to, I feel like it's been a useful kind of highlighting of kind of women's particular perhaps challenges in this area, because the fact is that the majority of caregivers are still females. That is still an ongoing situation, at least in this country, to what I know of as caregivers, and the impact upon our lives is different to that of if we're in a heterosexual relationship. It's different, perhaps. I don't know. So in terms of anger, I think this is a really interesting issue for women, because we're brought up thinking that anger is wrong and that you shouldn't be angry. It's not attractive, it's not feminine. These are not qualities, they're masculine qualities. So you don't get angry, you don't be angry, you don't feel angry, you push it down. Yeah. You pretend you haven't got it. So I think it's a particularly tricky emotion when it comes to acceptance, that I'm
yeah,
angry, that I'm
definitely.
raging, that I'm resentful, or frustrated, all those other words that can go with anger, or that anger can hide behind. I often hear people explaining frustration when really I think you're just blooming angry, aren't you, really? But that's a
Yeah.
polite word for it.
And I see that a lot in the coaching work that we do with people that I can see seem really angry, and rightly so. Like, it's really understandable that they would be, but they're kind of they're not aware of it, and they're probably ashamed of it and trying to deny it, and which actually makes it bubble up more clearly, doesn't it? Without the acceptance of the feeling, the awareness of the feeling, the acceptance, it's gonna be more of a struggle, and it's gonna come out in unhelpful ways, let's
But
just
it's
say,
kind of in the
isn't it?
bucket, and I want to sing the bucket song now. The "What's in Your Bucket" that they do at school. Have you not heard the boxing song. Oh my God, that's another one. Anyway, it's kind of in the bucket with other feelings that are deemed as, if I feel that, it will take over my world and ruin it. Like it'll just become so big and awful and out of control. So I think there's anger, isn't there? There's grief or anything to do with loss. You know, maybe even sadness for some people. So I'll keep chirpy and positive. And I think, unfortunately,
that's definitely me. I like the out of controlness of sadness.
Right, isn't that interesting? Because I
like
don't
that it's
perceive
what it'll lead
that.
to, and that you'll get stuck in it, or you'll get depressed, or like
Yeah,
that,
or
you know, that it's a sort of
self-pitying is really unattractive, isn't it? Don't wallowing in self-pity. That's a really interesting phrase, isn't it? Because we don't apply that to other emotions, but we do for self-pity.
Were you told that by any chance as a young person?
Yeah, I think I don't know if I was told that overtly, but I do think there's that message that we received that it's really it's not. Oh no, that's not a good one to stick around in. You can feel it for a little
sadness
bit.
Generally,
Yeah,
people just don't. It's really uncomfortable. It's the most uncomfortable thing because it's sort of got that helpless, powerless, vulnerable thing. It's the most vulnerable, and we haven't really even talked about vulnerability, but we're talking about vulnerable feelings and defending against them as well. You know that. Yeah,
but these are feelings
the
that are
hardest thing is the vulnerability.
they're completely rational, aren't they, in the circumstances which a lot of us are experiencing in life. So I think helping caregivers to feel that they've got space and place and safety to acknowledge those feelings, accept they're there, and use some tools around, you know, not even like moving on from them, because that will happen naturally. That does happen naturally. They come, they
Well, the
go,
thing
they
is, the
go.
more you accept and allow them, the
Yeah,
more that can happen. That's the point, isn't
yeah,
it? And with the acceptance commitment therapy that we use, that's part of that, is the idea that, well, not even the idea, the proven evidence fact that if you allow feelings more, then they will pass more, like a wave. It's like an energy flow, isn't it? And if you resist and struggle against them, it blocks them. It literally, you know, blocks the energy of that feeling, and you get stuck in it, potentially.
Yeah, it definitely heightens the intensity and the hold of it, doesn't it? So
Mm.
inversely, by doing the thing that we're trying to kind of get away from the feeling, we're actually making it more intense and more difficult
Yeah,
and more ongoing and
absolutely.
enduring.
So in
Yeah.
terms of like other examples of fight, flight, freeze for me, in addition to that fight stuff, the flight stuff, I am a natural flighter, I think, slash fawner, because I do think they're really similar. And so
Fauna makes you sound like a hedge. I think Fauna. She's not naturally fauna, no.
I'm not naturally a hedge. I'm not a hedge. Honestly, I'm not a hedge.
Or a shrub.
Or a shrub. I like that word, shrub. I'm not a
Oh,
shrub or a hedge. No,
sorry, I
I'm
interrupted
not.
your fawning. Your fauna.
However, yes, I definitely have gone into flight to the max in these years of having a child with FASD, when the feelings are just so hard to bear. I mean, that's what we're talking about, unbearable feelings, feelings that feel unbearable. You can't bear them. So you have to find some kind of escape route. It's literally trying to escape from having to feel those feelings. And it's sort of embarrassing to talk about in a way, but like the sort of flight routes often for me are like fantasizing about perfect ideal things. And that's always been a thing, but I think it's been exacerbated at points with this experience. So like for example, a lot of internet searching, a lot of right move addiction, a lot of like
That's valid. That's okay. You're allowed.
searching for perfect holidays, getting really into tunnels with that, like
It's
sometimes spending
escapism, like
really escapism,
totally.
and also like fantasizing about things that aren't me at all, that are sort of really like removed from reality. Like at one point I had a massive obsession about getting a camper van or a camper, one of those massive motorhomes. I used to watch YouTube videos, you know, with like really cheesy videos about showing you the motorhome, and here's the look at this awning, look at this kitchenette. I'm like, I couldn't be less somebody that wants a motorhome. You know, that's how removed it was from actually the reality of what was
But
good for
a
me.
motorhome is a symbol of escape, isn't it? You just
Exactly.
get in
Literally,
it
it's
and you
been, yeah,
go. Your house is
no,
there and you
exactly.
can just take it away. You don't have to stay in its
Yeah,
bricks and mortar. You can run, you can go, you can
yeah.
hide. Yeah,
Because at times I felt so claustrophobic, so like literally going to the window to try and get some air when it's got really, really escalated with my son. You know, it's literally wanting to escape. It's very sort of transparent, isn't it? But also a whole phase of, again, the escape impulse of wanting to get a nice detached house in the middle, you know, far from anyone, which now I think, God, that would be awful. You know, it's isolating enough at times, isn't it?
I think for me, it's more the busyness, like escaping into the busyness, keeping perpetually busy, keeping going, don't stop,
Yeah.
find lots of gratification and satisfaction from work and feeling good about that,
Which I
or
think that's brilliant. I think
achievements.
that's brilliant. And I think that's what
Yeah,
I do loads as well. I think
yeah,
that's a really kind of positive funnel for the feelings.
yeah,
Like, and there's a word for it in psychoanalytic stuff. I think it's like sublimation,
yeah.
where it's a
Sublimating the
defense
need.
where you sublimate it into something positive. You
Yeah,
know, so if you're really stressed out, you might become a sportsman, you know, to channel the energy, for example.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but the keeping it's a fine line between doing positive sort of productive work and stuff, isn't it? And then that real ultra sort of just keep doing, never be, just
yeah,
do.
yeah,
And that's a classic defense, isn't it?
yeah.
That I found in the research on FASD caregivers was so prevalent, that sense
Mm,
that we just have to keep doing. And there's this task list, and I can't rest, I can't have respite because I've got to do all these things.
mm.
And it's real. And at the same time, it's also that defense of like, if I keep going, I don't have to feel these unbearable feelings.
Mm.
So, if you're interested in finding out more about tools and skills to help with managing the defenses of fight, flight, freeze, both for yourselves as caregivers or practitioners and for children with FASD and other neurodivergent conditions, then just get in touch with us at anna@neurowise.org or the contact page on the website. And also today, we've been very much focusing on bodily defences of fight, flight, freeze. Look out for another blog when we're going to be talking more about psychological defences and how just extreme and dysregulated they can be in FASD and other neurodivergent conditions, and also skills and tools for managing those.